Last week we came out of the tent and into the workyard, and although next week we plan to show you all the big changes to come now that we're in a bigger space, at the moment we still have some projects to catch up on that we've started a while back, including our cockpit doors. Having built the base part of them and getting the first one into place, now it's time to go through a new sequence of steps to move the project further along.
Since we now have the tracks figured out as to how that placement is going to be, working on the center door now, the one that's going to actually lift up. Using a big piano hinge. So it's a 1.5 inch piano hinge. It's actually a pretty heavy duty setup. But to mount that, it's got to be flush. Because of the center beam, it kind of gets in the way. What I've done is did aluminum backing plates. Again, this is 1/4 inch with some foam behind it to get the right height, so it ends up being pretty flush with this. Those are going to be, we're going to use the methacrylate, that adhesive, to bond those into place. You can see too, they are bolted into this structure, which has a backing plate in it as well. So it should hold that just fine. Then on top of those, took some pieces, cutoffs of fiberglass that I had, and trimmed them into position. So those will get bonded there. We'll probably just caulk that edge because there might be just slight movement in there and I don't want it to crack later on, but that should give us a good position. You can see, should give us good strength to mount that piano hinge and be able to swing up that door without any fear of that breaking off later. Because of course you can imagine when you're at sea and the door, all said and done, will probably be about 35 pounds, right around there total, being suspended above your head. Last thing I want is that thing to come crashing down. So this should be strong enough for that.
Using our quick dry 2-part methacrylate, Matt used a specialized caulk gun to squeeze out both parts of the bonding agent onto the upper beam, and once it was covered, pressed down the aluminum backing plate and screwed it into place. Then, our pre-gel coated strips, which were recycled from our cockpit seats, is covered with our Total Boat structural putty and fastened over the foam and backing plate to make it even with the beam. Matt checks that it is all properly in its place before the thickened resin can cure. With all 3 doors now hanging in place, we needed to make sure all the windows would be uniform to one another. Breaking out the laser level, Matt set it at the height of the first window to make markings on the other 2 doors of where to cut. Our track saw was used for the outer edges, and when it came time for the radius, Matt opted to use our jigsaw, doing surprisingly well with staying on the marked lines. Then, moving our track saw 1 inch out from the new opening, Matt set the blade to go down through the first layer of fiberglass and the Nauticore filling, but leave the last layer of fiberglass at the bottom. The radius was once again done separately, but this time an oscillating blade was used as to not puncture through the entire door. The oscillating tool also did a great job of trying to section out the plastic center of the Nauticore and help pierce the bond of the fiberglass skin below. Between both the oscillating tool and a flathead screwdriver, Matt set about removing the innards of the Nauticore to leave us with what will eventually be our frame to hold in the acrylic windows.
Well, I'm not sure if Jess explained our issue, and what we neglected to do is all of these green spots or any of the seams have to be protected because the UV now being outside is going to kill this fiberglass that we've done.
If we look back on our cabin top, there were many stages that brought us to this point. The first was back in July of 2021 when it arrived to us in a container consisting of 3 separate pieces. While the interior was built out, we let it sit next to the tent for nearly a year, finally using a backhoe to get it in place in the fall of 2022. Just before temperatures dropped to make it too cold to work on the exterior of the boat, we were able to bond the 3 pieces together using our methacrylate bonding agent, which gave us a fully enclosed space to be able to heat and work through the winter. The following spring, once temperatures allowed resin to cure the ambient air, Matt sanded down the gel coat, and with some help from our friend Sophie, we glassed the sections together on both the exterior and the interior of the cabin top. And since that point, it has mostly been left alone.
The goal for the next couple of days is going to be getting them covered, go through, sand them, prep them, and at least getting fairing compound over the top of them so the UV isn't going into the actual glass itself. Get it rough sand, get it quickly done, and then go through and get at least one layer of the primer on top of it. And the primer, that epoxy primer, we're going to use as our UV protection, because we'll be able to leave it, go through and sand it off later on, get to clean fairing compound, and then build up that primer layer again. Here, so each one of these seams, the seams in the front in the bridge deck area, and our little tow rail along there, anything that was just fairing compound needs to be covered with something, otherwise we're just gonna end up destroying it. And the UV will be bad enough that we'll actually have to pick it all out or sand it all out and then reapply it.
Since we had applied peel ply when adding the fiberglass, which results in a smoother surface once cured, Matt only had to run over the seams with an 80 grit sandpaper to key the surface and get it ready for filler. After the first coat had gone on and cured overnight, it was time to sand it down and get ready for the next coat. As soon as that was done, it was time to go directly to adhering the next coat. For this project, we're using our TotalFair epoxy fairing compound. Their new formula makes it incredibly easy to spread on, is much smoother, and sands effortlessly. after, I don't know how many rounds it's been now, 3, 4. You can see there's still some low spots here along that seam with our TotalFair. And this has been Matt's project lately every day, and it doesn't take very long just to go through with the random orbital, or I think he uses the DA sander, just kind of sand that down, find the low spots, apply some more. And we were really hoping to get some of that high build primer from Alex Seal on here. As Matt was saying, will help protect from the UV. We'll just kind of leave it at that stage until we're actually ready to do exterior paint. But after not receiving word from our Alex Seal rep for like a week and a half, I reached out again and found out that our contact had actually left the company, so no one ever got my message. But luckily I stay in regular contact with the head of marketing over in Germany, so he's got us set up with a new rep. Just told them what we need and we'll be getting that in soon, but unfortunately it will still be about a week away, so other than just filling these low spots, this project cannot continue for another 7 to 10 days or so.
I'm trying to use the minimal amount of fairing compound on these doors. This one's still I just roughed the side in yesterday. But we don't want to add a lot of weight, of course, to this. We're trying to keep them as lightweight as possible. So not using a ton of fairing. But we are at the stage, once I go through and trowel in this again, we're at the stage where I'll be able to round over these edges again, clean that up so it'll be the finish edge. And then we should be ready to do that high build primer. As just mentioned, we do not have that yet. It's probably going to be a week before we see that, so I don't know when we'll get these. Originally I would take these down every single day and then every night put them back into place, just trying to give us some security from wind and rain and that kind of stuff. But now we're at that point where I'm just keeping them down here. We're just going through because I really need these done soon. As always, this has taken way more time than I anticipated, but that's all right. They're coming out good. After I get the priming done, I do need to add those strips. They're basically going to be 2.5-inch pieces of fiberglass that I've already glassed up in there. Those will be bonded on either side. So then when these doors, the outside doors, when they slide in, they have a pocket to slide into on the middle door. And then on the bottom here, you can see I still have not added the recess where the lower track is going to slide in. I want to get these all faired out and get the piece on the middle door first before we end up mounting this to make sure that there's nothing binding up at all. Just got to make sure that it moves nice and smooth, that I'm not going to wear out that middle piece rapidly. And then other than that, we will get it faired, primed, painted, and then installed. We are going to leave the acrylic out of these windows as well until we're closer to finish. So in the meantime, we'll put that insulation board in there to kind of cover it and then put some plastic over the top of it so we don't have to worry about it. But this should make it so it's much, much warmer this winter.
shipment.